Hello, David.
Hello, who's ever saying hello to me?
That's Gary.
Sorry, Gary, I got another screen opened up. I'll be with you in just a half a sec.
Sure.
There. Hello.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right under the circumstances.
That's about the best we can offer at the moment.
Yep. So, David, what was the result of the select board election?
Jordan Burnett Parker had 107 votes and Jason Trundy had 100.
Boy, that was close. And a low turnout too, huh?
In true Lincolnville fashion, it was a split vote. And yes, I would say a low turnout, although for a single race in December, pandemic related, you know.
So that's true. That's true.
I'd always like to have everyone vote, but I'll never see that. But we had 80% in November, and I think people were campaigned out, politicked out, you know.
Yeah.
Just it was overwhelming for people, I think.
80% is 80% the highest you've seen since you've been here?
Don't know the answer to that. If it isn't, it's pretty close. The other thing that's very challenging right now, well, has been for a number of years, is there are people on the voting rolls that shouldn't be. We obviously know they've left town, but you can't take them off. And if they've moved, hi Susan, if they've moved to someplace like Florida and registered in Florida and the registrar down there doesn't ever inform us, they're on our list. I won't say forever, but it takes an act of somebody in Augusta to take them off the list, not local. So, you know, the turnout likely was higher.
Right. Because
the denominator should have been smaller.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
If that makes any sense.
Amazing. Going, yeah.
We I think we're somewhere 2,080 or so registered voters. But the last census only had us at 2,164 people.
Right.
And I know that we, you know, granted the last census is 10 years old, so there's a disconnect there too. But you know, as long as people that come to vote are registered, you know, the percentage really doesn't matter. But probably this was probably the biggest turnout we've had. I'd have to go back and look for other presidential years.
Right.
Particularly if it was a, you know, a contested between two new candidates, probably would be the other turnout. But even then, you know, that would have been 4 years ago. Well, we had a good turnout 4 years ago too. So it would be an interesting political study or exercise, which at the moment, I'm not taking on. I've got enough other things to do. So.
Right.
I like your location, David.
Thank you. I was going to just have that on for background while I was doing something else, and then Gary logged on before I could get off. Get away. I'm going to mute myself because I haven't warned anybody in the house. I'm at home that I'm on a Zoom, so I don't want somebody to come screaming in saying something they might not want to.
Okay. Hello, Cheryl.
Hello.
Susan, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I can see you. I found another use for Phragmites.
Oh, well, what? I hope it's profitable.
Yeah, so I'm not sure it's profitable, but we were looking to get a gift for our son who lives in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And he's a biologist, and he teaches biology in a college there.
Oh.
And he's been getting more and more into the study of insects.
Uh-huh.
So we thought we'd make him a bee house. I don't know if you heard about bee houses for native bees.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yes. So, hi, Whitney. So you use the ends and you gather them together. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, yes. Oh, what a great idea.
right, and evidently the size of Phragmites is just the right size for mason bees and some other
Mason bees.
species as well.
Oh,
And-
that's cool. I just threw away all my reeds. Oh, well. I'll have to gather some.
There'll be more. There'll be more. They're a renewable resource.
That's a brilliant idea. Yeah, you gather a bunch, slice them off, about so, and then somehow hold them together.
Yeah, and I guess you keep the tubes 4 to 6 inches long, depending on the species that you're trying to attract. So we ended up making one from a spruce tree that had come down on our property. So we cut out a section of the log, cut out a face of it, and then I ended up drilling about 50 holes or so of different diameters into it. And
so you've drilled the holes.
yes, right.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Hi, Whitney. Hi, Lise.
Hi.
We're talking about a new use of Phragmites. So have you heard of anybody who uses them to make a mason beehive like that?
For a beehive?
Yeah, wild bees.
Well, maybe the bees do use them.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they use the natural ones, but people who are building bee homes do use knotweed and or bamboo or Phragmites, because the diameters of them are just the right size for certain species.
How interesting. How interesting. Huh.
Wow. Very cool.
Well, knotweed apparently is very good for tick bites.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, and apparently it's used by equestrian people who deal with horses up and down the East Coast. Their horses are given knotweed, infusions of knotweed to protect them against tick bites. So why not humans? I keep wondering.
Why not? Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, why are we trying to eradicate all this wretched knotweed when it has such a good use?
I hear that when it's young and it's sprouting, it can be used as a salad green too.
And a tea. Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can get my gallery view here so I can see everybody at once. Oh, let's see.
You're huge on my screen.
You have to go up the top right there.
Okay, and it's the participants or
Share screen.
More.
Do you see speaker view?
Speaker view.
If you click on that, it turns into gallery. Or I think maybe it says gallery, and if you click on
I
it,
see switch to gallery view on mine.
Yeah, me too.
Click that little grid.
Boy, I
Gallery.
don't see that. I see.
On the left. Are you using an iPad or a regular computer?
I'm using an iPad.
Then
I
it's
see.
on the upper left.
Thank
Upper
you.
left.
I see it now. Thank you.
Yeah.
There.
Oh,
Good to see everybody at once.
yeah.
We can only see you.
Unit gallery.
Hello, Whitney. Hello, Tony. Good to see you.
Hi, Tony. Hi, Whitney.
I think you're muted, Tony and Whitney.
Yeah, they are.
It looks like it's still muted.
exactly.
There it
There
is.
you
Oh,
go.
there you
Great.
are. Hi.
Hello, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Kendra,
Yes.
Hello, hello, Tandy. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Gary. Merry Christmas.
Kendra, what are you doing here?
Oh,
Hello, Pat. Haven't seen Pat in a bit.
Gary, Tony, Whitney, Cheryl, Lee.
Yeah.
Is Steve Thomas here?
Not yet.
But Pat is here.
Yes.
Whitney, what is that on your shirt? Is that a tree?
Oh, it's a leaf made by Kate Braystrip.
Oh,
With all kinds of an oak leaf with beads around the edge of it.
huh.
I guess.
Interesting. Nice.
Little tiny brown-tailed caterpillars.
No, we don't want
And a nice ring you're wearing.
Oh, yes. Very
Now,
nice.
that's a beauty.
It is. It is what? Your great aunt's, Tony?
Somebody's, yes.
Is it
Somebody-
an
It's yours,
engagement?
is what it is. It's
It's
yours.
mine now.
Is it an engagement ring? Engagement ring?
Yes.
It was, yes.
It
One-
was. After 40
It's still-
years, it's still here. And there's,
Excuse me, 40 years, not 4 years.
I said 40.
You- well, it's
40
gorgeous.
years. And Camden.
Maybe it seems like 4.
Yes. Camden Jewelry checks it out every so often to be sure it's in good shape because it's an old ring.
You don't want the diamonds falling out.
No, nor this beautiful ruby.
Ruby, ah, ha, ha, ha. Yeah.
So he checks it every so often when I remember to go. Every few years I go in to see him.
Is that the Camden jeweler, the guy on Bayview Street?
Yes.
Yeah, I like him so much.
Oh, he is so nice.
Yeah, he's really good. Anyway, gorgeous ring.
Thank you. I think I'll hang on to it for another 40.
I'll borrow it.
We'll hang on to Whitney, you hang on to the ring.
Yes.
So, is Rich coming? Do we know?
Yeah, Rich
Oh,
is
he's
here.
right there.
I see him on my gallery view.
I'm here.
Okay.
So it looks like we're only missing Steve at this point.
What about Tandy?
I'm right
Candy
here.
is here.
He's here.
Tandy's there?
Yeah. Switch to
Hello.
gallery view. Go to
Yeah,
gallery
we can do
view.
that.
Okay.
We can do it this way.
Oh, there we
There we
are.
are, okay.
Good.
Yeah, that works well for a meeting
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
Well, shall we get started?
Sure.
We have a big agenda.
That's a good idea.
Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Tony sent out a copy of the minutes today. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes?
No.
Well, I've got to say that I'm ashamed to say, actually, that I know that I offered to do something at the last meeting, and it had something to do with publicity around the Phragmites project. But I'm not sure that I understood what I completely forgot about it and have done nothing but promised to do something very soon. But I'm not quite sure it was what I promised to do. So
You were going to write a more creditable write-up.
was I going to do a press release?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Just the
Right.
fact
Okay,
something-
I will do a press release. I will
Good.
do a press release.
Good. So I think
50
we
years
can-
ago, I did a lot of publicity and I wrote press releases all the time. And I think I can remember how to do them.
Good.
Wonderful.
who, what,
Sounds
where,
good.
when, how.
In the first sentence,
Yeah.
Yes.
right. Okay,
So-
well, anyway, apologies. And maybe we could say a press release in the minutes because it was a press something or other, but it didn't clarify.
So in the, oh, there it is. It says, Lise will write a newspaper article proposal on the Phragmites project,
Yeah, a press release.
press release.
Right.
On
So
the
it would take
Phragmites
the form-
project.
Right.
On the
So it would
Phragmites
be-
project.
Well, with that correction, are the minutes approved?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 No objections? Yeah, I thought they looked great, Tony. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So with respect to today's agenda, we'll be doing our lake by lake review. And I sent out an email earlier today identifying some of the topics we'd be discussing. And we wanted to talk about Susan's narrative piece that she put together. We also wanted to talk about the sign that Cheryl shared with us all. We also, as our next agenda item, wanted to talk about doing a briefing for the select board and see how that might shape up. And then finally, we need to put together a budget proposal for next year. And that's due to the town, I think, January 6th. So I think that we'll probably have to come to some kind of a consensus on that, and I can put it together and get it submitted. Usually there's some flexibility there and being able to make some minor changes down the road, but to the extent that we can figure out what direction we want to take it today, that would be good. Any other items that people would like to submit for discussion today?
Well, maybe just a brief update if there is any, but just at least a mention of the mooring issue.
Okay, we'll cover that.
I think it's
as
good
well.
to just keep
Mhm.
with it.
Sounds good. Well, why don't we go pond by pond, lake by lake, and how about Coleman Pond to start with?
Okay, it's very high. We had ice in on December 19. And before that, we had all different kinds of ducks swimming around. It was quite amazing. It was like spring. And that's all I have to say. Tony, do you have anything?
We've seen a few eagles, but we've also had a pair, maybe three, but at least a pair of otters playing mid-pond several days in a row.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's neat.
fun to see.
So that's it.
Okay. Is it iced over at this point?
Yes,
Is
It's
the ice
iced o-
in?
Go ahead.
it's iced over. You certainly wouldn't walk on it.
Mm-hmm.
Were you going to say something?
Well, right now it's ice over, and I wouldn't be surprised if we lost the ice in the next day or two, because it's very
Yeah.
fragile.
Yeah.
How about Pitcher Pond, Rich and Pat?
Hi, Pat. Well, let's see. Water is very high. Seems almost higher than usual for this time of year. No ice yet, except on the mill pond going in. And I checked the Beaver Dam out the last couple weeks and talked to neighbors that have worked on overcoming the beaver work and have pulled it apart again. So it's open for traffic from the mill pond out to the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had quite a good start on a permanent dam there. So it was good to see that was completed. The only other thing I had is that we have some people keeping their eye on construction on the Northport side with an excavator very close to the water doing work there. It looks like they're trying to mitigate the work from creating too much of a problem with flow into the lake, but it's quite a construction project, so something we're keeping our eye on.
Is it the construction of a new house?
It looks like a foundation for a camp.
And there's a stream that comes in. Is that what you mean by a flow of water?
No, I didn't see any stream or flow. Just saying, for construction that close to the lake, they need to put a barrier up.
Oh, I see. And they haven't done that.
Yes, they did.
They haven't done that. They
They
did
have.
do that. Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, good.
It's still a concern about how close to the water it is, but I'm not sure anything can be done about it if they have the proper barriers built. But it's being watched. I don't know about you, Pat. You have anything?
Nothing to add.
Good to see
Pat, just before you start,
it's-
Pat, Rich, did you say the Beaver Dam? What did you say about the Beaver Dam?
It was taken apart. It's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
So again, good to see you, Pat.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, other than it does feel very strange to see the water so high and so much still coming over the dam. And it's hard to compare it to previous years because it was so low. It's been pretty dramatic to watch.
Yeah, it's really been a wet fall, especially after such a dry summer when our reports 3 months back were that the water's been as low as it's been in many years.
Yes.
Except for Moody Pond, where the beavers have been active and have been bringing the level up. But I guess we can turn to, first of all, Tandy, did you have anything that you wanted to add for Coleman Pond?
No, I think that they covered it really well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the
Great.
ice is really thin and it's gonna melt. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I saw some eagles, so we have some eagles around. So that's nice.
And why are there eagles? Are they looking for fish? I mean, fish for the people are fishing and leave on the ice.
No, because there are no ice houses.
Ah,
Because the ice is too thin right now.
Yeah. They're probably looking for ducks. You know, the
Yeah.
duck migration was late this year and there are a lot of ducks on the ponds late. And the eagles
Good.
consider them good fare.
So,
yeah.
Foul is fair.
so Gary, it isn't just spring conditions that there are all these ducks. It's the migration was late.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that things froze up really late up north, and even some of the big water up north hasn't frozen yet. So the geese in particular have been delayed many weeks.
Yeah, we've seen geese too on the pond.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, have you seen or heard anything about snowy owl eruption? Snowy owls here in Lincolnville?
No, I haven't. Have you?
I haven't, but my neighbor was pretty sure he saw a snowy owl.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah, there was one reported on Clary Hill about 4 weeks ago, but that's the only one I've heard about in the immediate area. There have been a lot of rough-legged hawks that have come through. This seems to be a big eruption year for them, and oftentimes you get a big eruption year of snowy owls at the same time because they both feed on lemmings in the Arctic, and when the lemming populations crash there, they both come south. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a lot of snowy owls this year.
So we should keep our eyes open. Yeah, okay.
Seen more hawks than usual too. Hawks, I've seen a lot of hawks this fall.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's been a big year for hawks. I think there's been a lot of voles and mice around. I've seen more voles this year on our property than I have since we've been here for the almost 20 years now. So I
What
think
does
there's
that
just
mean?
a lot of food for them.
Acorns.
A lot of acorns.
Acorns.
Mhm. Lise, how about Moody Pond?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I saw this beaver house to the left of our beach. If you're standing facing out from the beach, out into the pond, over to the left, slightly left, in the middle of the weeds, was this beaver house. But I went down today with the dog on the leash because we didn't want the dog running out onto the ice, and couldn't find it at all. It was gone. Either that or the ice had crushed it. But that didn't seem possible either.
Yeah.
Anyway, the water's high. The water is flowing out of the lake. Mariner's Brook is just, it's like it's springtime. It's just plummeting right out. And quite a few ice fisher, Justin Twitchell and company came over and fished off our shore a couple of days ago. And I guess he got stuff because he was down there for a long time and then we left. And other people have been fishing over on the other side where the near off Moody Mountain Road. And so there's been a lot of fishing going on, and it's all iced, but you wouldn't want to walk on it. And I noticed that his footprints didn't go really far out, Justin's.
Yes.
But he was down there for a long time, so there must have been something to keep him.
Yeah, I was just looking at the stocking. I was just looking at the stocking reports for Moody Pond and Levenseller.
Yeah.
And I think there were 400 brook trout that were put into Moody and about 750, I think it was, into Levenseller.
When?
And they were putting in some bigger fish this year, 13-inch fish.
Oh, really?
They didn't do a lot of stocking earlier in the year in Waldo County because of coronavirus. So the fish must have grown larger.
So when,
they,
I
put
see.
a lot of fish in.
When did they put them in? This year? I mean, this fall?
Late November. I think it was
Late
like November 28th
Okay,
or
so
something
just.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's probably
well,
going to attract a lot of fishermen
Yeah,
this
well,
winter,
they're
I
there.
would guess.
They're there. But I think the ice is going to keep them away for a while. So that's about it from, what do you suppose happened about the beaver house? I mean, because usually they're firm enough, it wouldn't be just the ice that would stop them, would it?
Are you sure?
Well, I don't think so. I think a beaver house would stay. Now, have you seen muskrat houses at all?
I
on
wouldn't
that
know
part
the
of
difference
pond?
between the two of them. It was in an odd place because I always thought that beaver houses were more on the shore. This was out
Yeah.
in the weeds, and it
So
was.
I saw that one about 2 months ago when I was out in a canoe.
Oh,
on
you
Moody
did?
Pond, and it was a muskrat house, which are made
Oh,
out
it
of
was.
cattail stalks.
Probably.
So if it's really windy or there's ice action, you can lose those.
Okay,
but
well then it
they're-
probably was a muskrat and it was not a beaver. Okay,
Yeah,
because
take-
it's gone.
Take a look online about the differences. Usually
Okay,
the
I will.
muskrat houses are made out of grass, whereas the beaver houses are much sturdier with logs and sticks.
Okay.
Yeah, you need an excavator to dislodge a beaver lodge.
That's what I would have
Or
thought.
explosives, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very interesting because I was amazed that it was gone.
In Levenseller, there was a lot of ice fishing activity there this weekend, and I couldn't
Mhm.
believe that people were out on the ice because there
And
was
they
a
were
lot
far
of
out.
there
They
was
were
a
far
lot of
out.
open water. They didn't go too far out. I don't think that they went any further out than water that was 2 or 3 feet deep at most underneath them. So they
I
wouldn't
saw
have
them far
submerged.
out.
Oh, did you really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I was amazed.
on the Levenseller end of it, even if you go far out there, it's very shallow, just a
Oh,
foot or
okay. So
two.
so it wouldn't be dangerous.
Yeah, I
Didn't know.
right, but I was really surprised to see them because it was very thin ice. But I think they were attracted by the 700 plus fish that were
Right, that
stocked
had just
there.
been put in. Interesting.
Susan, anything for McGuntacook or?
You know, I wish I did. I haven't even taken that route to town. I've had to go other ways. So
Uh-huh.
it's been a couple weeks since
Okay.
we kayaked around Fang a while ago, but we've noticed the water's high, but I haven't really been by at all to see.
Mm-hmm. And Cheryl, any reports from the brook, from the stream?
No, we have not ventured down there recently, so no, not today.
Okay, great. Why don't we do the report on what's going on with the moorings or mooring committee? Are there any new reports since the last meeting?
Well, nothing much has happened that I'm aware of. Rich, I don't know what you have to add to it, but it's just, the winter is passing and it would be a shame to have spring come along and have one more season, or maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. What do you think, Rich? You're more in touch with Jay than I am.
I haven't spoken with Jay, but I did email David Kenny to see if he's brought those questions to the attorney yet and to give us some timeline. I sent it last week. I haven't heard back. I know he's been busy, but I plan to call him in the next 2 days and see if he's at least moved our questions along to the attorney. So no, I have nothing more to report.
Okay, well, maybe we'll have something next time, but it's just good to keep this on the agenda because I think we all have to be thinking about it because it will possibly impact the lakes, probably, one way or the other.
And I think that's a good idea for us to continue to track it.
Yeah.
Shall we turn to Susan's story on restoring the marsh?
I thought it was so sweet.
Oh, thank you.
It was really nice, Susan.
Oh, thank you.
Any additional comments on it?
Elise wanted to delete the resorting to Roundup line.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten about that. I don't think it should be even brought up.
Don't mention it. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it would be a terrible idea. I mean, everybody in the world is being sued about Roundup. You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, the lawsuits are just tremendous against whoever makes Roundup.
Oh. So we're not.
It's
not even
really,
last
really,
resort.
really big
Yeah.
news.
Right.
You wouldn't want to use Roundup.
Yeah, so I mean, if you wanted to keep the concept there, we could talk about herbicides rather than a specific one. Because I think it's important to probably have the full range of possibilities included, but if we just generalize it that way, does that make sense to others?
Doesn't have the alliteration though.
Yeah.
That's right.
Resorting to Roundup.
No, I saw that. Right.
Yeah, Roundup is a dirty word these days. I mean, there's lawsuits about it causing cancer, people who use it. So
Yes.
if we were to use it, all of us would probably stay away from the area and not work on it.
Well, you know I wasn't serious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
some
I do.
people might not get that though.
Okay.
No, I did not take it as a joke either.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
We're not a joking group. at
No
least some
sense of
us.
humor.
Susan, you have to find some alliteration that works for herbicides. So not something to herbicides, an H word. I don't know.
I'll work on it.
Yeah, I got nothing.
So the suggestion is to wait, can I just butt in then?
Sure, go ahead.
The suggestion on Susan's narrative is to delete the word herbicide and insert the word herbicide.
Resort
or she may want to fix it.
What?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Good.
And I just had one comment, and it had to do with the Waldo County Soil and Water Group that's listed, the 2 interns. The official name is Waldo County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Oh, well, can you just
Okay.
change that for me? Can you make that correction?
Waldo County.
Are you talking to Tony or to me?
Oh. Well, I guess, yeah, if Tony has the pen in his hand. Okay.
Okay, so Waldo County
Soil and water conservation.
Soil and Water.
Water Conservation District.
District. It's always been
And I
that.
think that's on page 6. Cheryl?
I just saw, and I don't have page numbers. I only printed out 3 pages, but kind of in the middle, there is approval of the Board of Select Board. It's like,
Oh,
it looked like it was going to be selectmen and it ended up being Select Board.
right.
So they're not called that yet.
Oh,
Officially.
okay. Oh,
I believe it's still the Board of Selectmen. No one has formally called them the Select Board yet.
oh. It was a
That's
big
on the
issue in
label.
Camden, but I guess we're still
Yeah.
selectmen in Lincolnville?
Yep.
It's on the agenda at some point, I think, to change it, but they have
Okay.
not.
So we
Okay.
want to say selectmen.
I believe so. I'm pretty sure it's
Yes.
still Board of
I
Selectmen.
think that's the official term of art. I think informally, people call it the Select Board.
Well, people
Yeah.
started
At
calling
least I
that.
do
because
sometimes.
It's more appropriate at the moment. What do you call it? Socially acceptable?
Why don't we just, it'd be the change we want to be?
That.
No, we want to be Select Board.
Right.
So why don't we, what Susan's saying is we make what we want to be.
Just call it the Select Board. That's fine with me.
Yeah, you know, and
But that's not gonna, it's not gonna sit well with them. You know, they've made the decision to be the selectmen, sort of like lobstermen or lobstermen.
Yeah, but we're
and
just
it's
using
the
it
women.
informally.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
if we,
generic.
if we use it informally, but in terms of any
Yeah.
official
Well,
thing, we need to stick with what they want to be called until they change it. We can,
so
we could work to change it in other ways, but not by just decree. As much as
Why
I would
not?
love that.
Well, this is getting more liberal. The board is getting more liberal.
Well,
that's
Select
good.
50 sounds better than Board of Select People.
Yes.
Diverse board of select people, yeah.
Or persons.
Yes.
in terms of how we use this document, I might suggest that we continue to call it a draft, and that when we do the briefing of the select board or the Board of Selectmen, they will see it as a draft, and they'll have an opportunity to comment on it before
Yeah.
we finalize it or put it to some public relations use of some kind. Is
If they're
that an acceptable way of dealing with this?
Yeah,
like that.
fine.
Shall we move on to Cheryl's sign?
It was great, Cheryl.
Looks good to me.
Just one question. I've noted these suggestions, but, and I can put them in, but really these are corrections for Susan to make. Is that right?
I would think so. When we finalize it as a draft, that we would end up submitting to the select board. Would you be able to do that, Susan, in the
Well,
future?
Yeah. I didn't have that bit in. If Tony, if you could send me what you that correction. I'm happy to be edited. I have no problem with being edited.
Okay, sure.
Why don't you guys be the editor? I'm really okay with that.
Okay,
So-
so I'll make the corrections that we've just mentioned, and
Yeah.
then send out the draft minutes of the draft narrative tomorrow to everybody, and then you'll have a copy.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah, sounds like a good approach. Great. So turning to the sign, and I wonder if we can deal with this in the same way, consider it to be a draft that we would include as part of the presentation to the select board and get their feedback on it. I just had one thought, and that was where it says, in cooperation with the Lincolnville Select Board, Conservation Commission, and state agencies, rather than saying state agencies, because we've only dealt with one, say state and local agencies, since we have also worked with Waldo County Conservation District. Does that sound okay? And was the thought to include the photo that is here as part of the sign?
Well, I liked it because it seemed quite ominous.
Uh-huh. No, let's people know what we're talking about.
Mighty's is so high, and so it's really scary. We got to do something about it. Visually, I liked it.
Yeah. So maybe you shouldn't have a blue May sky, but a black and gray November sky. Really make it look even more ominous.
Well, I've used Photoshop to put water in swimming pools when I worked for a newspaper. So,
Uh-huh. No.
Toss in a tornado.
well,
No, I
no,
think it's
people would
I
put
think
the
it's fine
covers
the
on
way
their
it is. Yeah.
people would put covers on their pools, and they'd want to sell their house. So
Oh,
they'd want a photo of the pool with water in it. So I would just Photoshop out the cover and put water in the pool. Now you can't do that anymore. You're not allowed to do that. But back in the day,
Oh.
yeah.
Truth in advertising. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I really like the thrust of this in terms of putting up front Phragmites removal to protect Norton Pond. The other thing that I was wondering about is we have a website here. I wonder how easy it is for people to pick up on the website, and whether or not people are using those QR codes, and whether it's easy to create a QR code that would go to a website, or to list the website
That's a
and the
good idea.
QR code.
So the website that's referred to, put the QR code on there.
Put the QR code that would take you to the website, but maybe you should list the website too, say, or, with this QR code, unless that gets too complicated. What do you think? Do you think people use QR codes in Lincoln?
I
I
don't
don't even know what it is.
Neither do I.
Oh, it's,
I don't have the app.
I don't have one, but
Okay.
I don't even know what it is.
So they're using that more and more at tourist sites and parks and other interpretive signage. It's that little sort of square box that you see on a sign. It has the squiggly lines on the inside.
Yeah.
And if you take a picture of it with your camera or your smartphone, it'll take you to other information or to a website that would give you information about it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Interesting. Did you say that the Lakes and Ponds Committee has its own website, or because I just Googled Lincolnville Lakes and Ponds Committee and I'm on the Lincolnville town website?
Well, right. So we could go to that. I guess we could refer them to the Lakes and Ponds Committee website and then put on the website. this
Well, where
information
is,
on
I
phragmites.
can't find the website.
Oh, you
I'm
can't?
not sure where the website is. I would do Lincolnville Lakes and Ponds Committee and the website would show up.
Well,
I don't
think what
see
you-
it.
I think there are items there that show up.
There's
So,
a
for
YouTube
example, the alewife video that Josh put together, I believe, is on
Mhm.
the town's website under the
Oh.
Lakes and Ponds Committee.
The town's
That's the
website,
town
but there's no lakes and ponds separate.
No, nothing
Not
separate for Lakes,
Um,
so it would be under the towns.
Oh, nothing separate. Okay, that's what I was looking for and I couldn't find it. Good. Got
But
it.
the sign that Cheryl made, which has may or may not have the QR on it, is really for people who are coming up, see the sign, photograph it, and then go for more information.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that's good. That's simpler than a QR code, and people are doing that more and more now, aren't they? Just taking a picture of something they want to
Mhm.
remember and have on file.
But to get to the information, do they need the QR code on the sign?
No, I think if they have the website,
It's an
they
option.
could put in the information
Right.
to look it up. It's just a little bit complicated when you've got all of those figures, and that's the beauty of a QR code,
Right.
is that you don't have to transcribe all of the slashes and punctuation and everything else.
I'd be willing to look for one and see how they make them and see if it's a simple act to
Feasible?
just
Okay,
put one together. I'll
and-
see what I can do.
Thank
and
you.
so we can keep this in draft form again for the purposes of making the presentation to the select board, and
Mhm.
we could, bring that up as a possibility there if it looks like it's feasible, Cheryl.
Yeah,
Does that make
I'll
sense
see what I
to?
can find out.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I noticed it says select board. I was taking my cues from Cheryl.
So that's good, actually. It should be, both should say the same thing.
Well, yeah, I think I'll change that.
You're putting select men?
Well, I want to stay on their good side, so. Yep, that's fine.
Nice
Okay,
job, Cheryl.
no other comments on the signage? I guess we're calling it a temporary sign.
Mhm.
Do we know?
Only for the board. Only for the select board.
How about
Well,
provisional?
Okay, so
What about provisional?
Draft. How
That's a
about
good-
draft?
I
A
guess
draft.
it's a
Provisional's
draft
good.
sign, so it may end up becoming a, what was your thought, Cheryl, with the idea of a temporary sign?
Well, I don't know if anybody wants to pursue it, but I did look quickly into doing the interpretive signage, and it's not all that expensive if you don't do a really big one. But again, I don't know what the selectmen are going to think of even $500 or $1,000 with the budget and the, with the
Right.
code, what it's done to everything. So I don't know if this is a good time to ask for that.
Mhm.
But that was my thought, is it would go at some point, not next year, but the year after, maybe we could put up an interpretive signage for people.
Right. So the sign that we would put together now would be on some kind of a fiberboard or
Yeah.
something else.
Maybe
And
put
how
a
much?
plexiglass
Okay,
or
I
something.
see what you're
over it.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you know what the cost would be of doing something like that?
Yeah. Let's see, I just bought plywood, small piece. You could probably do it for under $50. I mean,
Okay.
well under.
Yeah. So, and I think we've got enough in our current budget, and we'll get to talking about the budget later, but between now and July 1st to be able to do something like that.
Mhm.
So I think it would be within our current budget to do it.
So that's a single sign and it does not have the 2R code.
Well, it could.
Whatever
Maybe.
it is. I don't know what it's called.
So you could like print something out and laminate it potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the signage?
On plywood.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I'm downloading the app now,
What app?
Which app is that?
the QR code reader.
QR code app. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, my heck.
I've had it on my phone for about 2 years and I've never used it.
Yeah, me too. I got rid of it. Yeah.
I never knew what that meant when I see them, because I have an idiot phone and I just like, I had no idea what it was or what you called it. So what does the QR stand for? What's
Nobody
the
knows.
Q? What's the R?
I don't know.
Good question. Do you want an
Question
assignment?
two.
Do you want an assignment for the next meeting, Pat?
No, no way to look it up.
Oh, the web.
Well,
QR.
yeah, it looks like Susan's looking it up. Or
Yeah, they're not describing it. They just assume it's not written for my generation, obviously.
QR code, hold on. A QR reader for an iPhone. A QR quick response code is a type of
Yeah.
matrix barcode first designed in 1994 for automotive industry in Japan.
Huh. Pretty good.
QR code
So-
generator, create your own codes.
Oh, good. I need that.
Quick
Yeah.
response.
Quick response. Oh,
Quick response.
QR codes
generator.
are actually capable of storing lots of data, but no matter how much they contain when scanned, the QR code should allow the user to access information instantly, which is why it's called quick response.
Very good.
well, that was a quick response, Lise. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Far out.
Okay, so
Well, it
let's.
says 9 reasons QR codes are bad for your brand. Probably heard enough.
Yeah.
I've heard enough.
Yeah.
QR codes and 2D tags are generally ugly, generic, and mess with a brand's aesthetic, destroying much of the investment made by brands to develop district brand identities. The codes have limited use and are only capable of translating into a text string that sends users to a website, phone number, or SMS.
Just the facts, ma'am. That sounds like an opinion. But,
I don't want to destroy our brand with a bad QR.
so let's talk about the Board of Selectmen meeting or the Select Board meeting that's coming up. I guess we have a new member on the Select Board as a result of the election.
And who is that?
Jordan.
Jordan Barnett Parker.
He
Is
won
it a
by
good person?
seven votes.
That's probably not something we should
Oh,
Discuss.
talk
Okay,
about.
okay. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
Recorded. We're being recorded.
Withdrawn,
being
withdrawn.
And what we had talked about at our last meeting, and this was sort of at the invitation or suggestion of Dave Kinney, is doing a briefing of the Select Board, letting them know what we're doing in terms of public relations for our Phragmites removal project, not looking for their approval per se, but advising them as to what our plans were and give them an opportunity to comment on it. And that's something that we could schedule the next time they have a slot, maybe sometime toward the end of January, and we could give them an update on
good.
what we've done and what the possibilities were for the future. And I think we also talked about it as an opportunity to let them know how our unencapsulated polystyrene project is going too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it'd be good to talk about that because I think that's been a success for us where we've worked
Mhm.
closely with them. We got good support from from them, and I think it's made a difference. So once we've got these 2 draft pieces, they could be part of what we submit as part of the briefing package. And Pat, I'll work with you on getting our numbers updated for that chart that we use for the floats and docks. And I guess that could be the main part of our briefing, if people are in agreement with that.
Yes. So,
Okay.
Gary, how does the select board meeting run? Do we all appear as a committee?
We Zoom.
Yeah, so they're Zoom meetings, and you'd be free to participate. They only invite usually like one person to actually be on video, and the other people who attend use the chat function so that they can put their comments on, and those comments are read, I think, either by Dave or by the chair. So
But
there are
we can
ways of
see
getting
what's
some,
going on.
yeah,
We
you'd
can
be able
see
to
what's
see
going
and
on.
hear what's
Good.
going on with the
Good.
select board
Good.
members. And if I were making the presentation, you'd be able to see me as well. Or if there's someone else in the committee that would like to make the presentation, that would be fine with me.
Gary, you're so
Your
good at it.
best. Your best.
Yeah, but I think that we have a very talented committee, and anyone would be able to do a good job. But as the chair, it'd be fine for me to do it.
Good.
Yeah, you have to.
Yes.
I have a choice.
Please.
So let's turn to the next subject, which is our budget. I don't know if you had an opportunity to read the budget proposal that I had put together last year.
Yeah.
And I sent that out, I don't know, maybe 3 hours ago.
Oh, I didn't. Sorry.
So as I thought about this, I thought we might want to have something that is very similar to that. I think that it was written in a generic way, and the structure of it was for $850 overall for the year. 600 of those dollars was to do follow-up to try to understand why there are sometimes elevated levels of bacteria at Breezemere Park. And this is something we've had in our budget for several years now. And the way that it's designed to work is that when the McClintock Lake Association does its monitoring and finds elevated levels, that we would then follow up after a rain to see where that extra bacterial load might be coming from. But for the past 3 years, there have been very few excursions there, but I think that's been primarily because we've had very dry years. So oftentimes there's an association between the amount of rain and runoff and elevated levels. So I think it's probably still important to keep that in our budget so that we can do the follow-up if it turns out that it's a wetter year and we have a problem.
I was
so
curious.
that would go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm sorry. I was just curious, who does the testing and how does that how is that generated? Who decides when and how,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah. So I've had discussions with Paul Leeper. So the McClintock Lake Association does their weekly monitoring. And if they come up with an excursion, Paul and I would talk about it to coordinating taking the additional samples when they do the second day monitoring following an initial excursion.
Okay.
So they would actually be taking the samples, following all of the chain of custody protocols and everything that they do for submitting it to the lab, but they would include ours as well. So what you would then see is there would be an excursion before they post a warning, before the town posts a warning. There's a second test that's taken usually the next day. And if the conditions were right, as part of taking that second test, we would go upstream in the brook to the places where we've got some baseline information already to see whether or not there are high levels coming from the brook.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
Paul has agreed to work with us on that.
Oh, good.
So Gary, we haven't spent the money on that.
No,
for
we've been
3
carrying
years.
it from year to year, but the other thing that we put into our budget was $250 to be used as things arise during the year that may need some kind of response from the Lakes and Ponds Committee. So, and invasive species are listed as an example of something that might come up. So the work that we've done on
Like
Phragmites
Phragmites.
is covered by that. And in fact, of our $850 budget, $55 was used to buy the tarps. Those were the additional tarps that that Dave purchased for us. So I think that money could also be used for the permitting that's going to be required for next year for us to continue with the project. And I think that there's some flexibility too. So to the extent that we haven't used the $800 of the budget this past year, that I think that we could use that final paragraph of our budget justification to spend some of that as well to do additional projects. So I think it's a pretty good arrangement because it gives us some flexibility and it allows us to initiate this larger project to try to figure out what's going on with bacterial contamination in Norton's Pond. And you know, also I was just thinking about Pitcher Pond and frog bit that was found there. You know, if there was a need for some kind of a response or sampling from the town to follow up on frog bit, we'd have funds there to do it. And I think we've kind of established some credibility. We haven't been wantonly spending our money. And so I think if we keep it the same, at the same level, the $850, I think it's more likely that it's going to go through, especially given the budget issues that the town may be facing this year with coronavirus. So I think the more that we keep things the same with a record of not spending the money unless we really need it might be a good formula and approach for us. And I wanted to get people's feedback on doing things that way.
So Gary, I have a question. How much will it cost for our permit next year? Is it $250?
I think it's $200.
Okay.
And we have that money available. So I think what we would want to do is to try to get that permitting done this spring while we still have the budget for it. But we would still end up asking for the $850 for next year.
And next year starts July 1?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I was just thought we must have quite a lot left.
We do, right. We've got 850 minus 55 for tarps. So we've got something to work with this fall. And I think that also could include, supplies for the Phragmites project, or if there was some piece of equipment or something that wasn't outrageously expensive and volunteers wouldn't have, we'd be able to do that as well. And there'd also be money for the signage this this spring.
So
Okay.
we have those funds available until the next fiscal year, which is July 1st.
We have, yeah, those funds are available until July 1st of 2021.
Oh, okay.
So I think we'd be able to get the permitting done
Yeah.
and the sign done and some other miscellaneous things if we need to. I think there just might have to be some kind of a discussion with the select board, since we'd be just moving some of the money from the $600 that had been set aside for the sampling that we're unlikely to use before July 1st to cover some of the other costs.
So carryover, having some carryover into this next year might be a request. 850 plus any carryover, I would think would be.
Well, you know, they haven't been willing to do that in the past when I've asked them. So it seemed to me that if we were to spend as much of the 850 before July 1st on the permitting and any tools and the signage, we might end up using a pretty good chunk of it. Then we'd have a new 850 on July 1st.
Oh yeah,
That's
once you,
good.
I agree. I was, after reviewing the budget, I was going to suggest that we increase it some, but you've convinced me this isn't the time to do it. So I think any excess ought to be spent ahead. Permitting, because I had things down too for rental equipment with the Phragmites project. If we needed more tarps,
right.
I think if we can take care of some expenses from that budget and then just stick with the 850 for next, that makes more sense.
So Gary, did you?
Yes.
This, I'm holding the budget in request sheet. This looks to me like you wrote it last year.
I did, yes.
Okay. So the changes that we're discussing now.
So, yeah, so I would make
I'm
those.
asking you, who's writing this next proposal?
Yeah, no, I'll write the next proposal. I've got it on my computer. So I'll just modify the language to bring it up to date. And there may be something that I can insert there that draws a little bit more attention to the Phragmites project. But when I looked at it, it covers pretty well what we do, because it had public outreach, it had signage, it has communications with the public, dealing with invasive species, dealing with monitoring. So it's not going to require too much in the way of change. And I think we're going to be able to cover what we need to do without making an increase in a request for more money.
I would say,
And you're saying we need to spend what we have, get the permit before July 1, tarps if we're going to need them, and the sign.
Equipment.
Yeah, okay.
And I think we need to be thinking now, and we can talk about it at our next meeting, what actual things we'd like to try to move forward with, because it might take a while to get it done. And I like some of your ideas, Rich. Yeah.
Did you mention when the budget must be submitted?
Yes, January 6th, I've got to get it in. So I think based on what I'm hearing from you now, if everyone's, we can take a vote to see if this is the way that we want to go. I'll put it together and submit it.
Sounds good.
I have a comment if I could.
Susan?
My only question is, are we, the money's been assigned for these purposes for monitoring the water, testing it. Is it okay if we just go ahead and use it for the other things? Or
No, we would have to check with the town on that. So the $250 we've got some flexibility with, and we've spent 55 of that for tarps already.
Oh, I
So
see.
we've
Okay,
got,
I got you now.
but
Yeah.
also if you take a look at the language there, I think we say toward the bottom that if we are going to be using it for these unidentified problem response kinds of things, that we would advise the select board. It's sort of language that's toward the end. And I
And
think it's just
explore
really
other
smart to
options.
do that.
Yeah, okay. Which is a good reason to be going and explaining our Phragmites project.
Mm-hmm. And so I should include that as part of the presentation too.
Yeah.
Rich?
Yeah, I just, with one sentence in there regarding looking for funds from other sources and so on, I just think the $850 is such a tiny, tiny amount for a committee in town with, the size of the town budget. And I agree that, given the circumstances, we shouldn't be asking for more money. But to act like that's a lot of money by saying, oh, we're going to look for other sources, so that we don't have to even maybe dig into the $850 seems a little much, because I'd like to think that our budget could increase as we see the need in the future. And I don't make, it just makes it sound like, we're asking for a lot of money, so we're going to be trying to scrape it up from other sources. $850 for a year for the town, all the waters in town.
So
Yeah,
I think that
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I agree with that too.
Yes.
yeah. Thank you,
Do you
Rich.
think that we should drop the piece that says we'll explore the availability of other funds?
Yes.
Yes,
Because we know we have,
we
we
can
can do
always
that,
do
and that
it.
there are the pond and lake associations, and there are other ways to get money. But I think Rich makes a really valid point that this is a very small amount of money for this committee, for this town. And it's important.
I agree.
How do others feel about that, removing that language from the proposal?
I think that's a good idea, because you can always ask for more money. I mean, we can always find other sources of money, but we don't have to put it into the document now.
So we're not bound to it.
Yes.
What's that, Tandy?
We're not bound to it.
Mhm.
We don't have to be bound to it.
Yeah.
But we can
Susan,
always do it. There's nothing stopping us.
I think
Susan?
I think that clause is important and valuable. And as Tandy says, we don't have to do it, but it seems like we're being responsible. For example, we explored, wasn't funds, but other resources, like the soil and water people came in. I think we've been good about finding other resources outside of our own budget. So I think I think it sounds good.
It was put in, I put it in there originally because of seeing the select board operate. And if they, in a knee-jerk kind of way, they can turn proposals down.
Yep.
Or by time and things don't end up getting done, if they say, well, is there some other way of doing this? Can you explore a grant? So it's kind of put in as a defensive piece to say that we already have that mindset, that we're going to look to see if there's another way of getting this done. So I felt comfortable having that there because generally it's not that. So they're not necessarily looking for something exhaustive as far as going out and checking to see if there are grants that are there. It's, almost of if we're aware that that is the case. So I don't think there's a really high standard in terms of having to look for those alternatives, but I think having that mindset helps in dealing both with the budget committee and with the select board. But I also understand the points that others have made here. When I reread that today, I was saying to myself, do I really want that language in there? Because that puts another burden on us to do that kind of work for what might be de minimis expenses. So maybe there's a way of working that concept into it. It is, say that, for larger expenditures, we would,
Right.
look at potential other sources like grants there. So to somehow qualify it so that it doesn't apply to everything that we might do. I guess I'm kind of looking for a compromise approach that takes into account what
But can you
Susan is
say
saying.
that? Can you say that, Gary, as you make the presentation rather than having it in writing? If anybody questions you.
You could simply add something like, before using additional town funds, we'd explore. I agree. I think it's I don't think it's a small amount of money, but I think it's a basic amount of money. And then this clause could be, before we do anything in addition, we'd explore other options, something like that.
Well, and I think using the word resources rather than funds or funding, because there's a difference, and we don't want to say we're going to go out beating the bushes looking for other money, although resources are also money.
I like the resource.
But it's a language thing.
Okay, so I like that too, to talk about other resources that may be available to achieve our, goals and objectives, something like that. So we'll take the funding piece out of it. And I think it makes it more of a qualitative approach than a quantitative approach.
Gary, I just wanted to say, I agree with your sensibility about how to put this together for the board to understand. We're looking at other places, not just to the town. But if we were looking for $7,500 a year, I would understand that effort. But that small amount of money, I don't think you have to justify it. I just don't think for that small amount of money, you need to put in the idea of our looking hard if we need a little bit more money. But finding some other way, like, Susan's idea, I like, larger projects. I like Pat's idea about resources. So if there's some way to put that together.
Let's soften that. So I'll take the sort of the funding piece out of it, use something that's more general, like resources. Just always, and resources and partnerships. Maybe even talk about
as we've done before.
Yeah, so I'll kind of
continue
use
to do
that
that.
approach, the resource and partnership approach, if everyone's agreeable to that.
Yes, which we have done before and which we will continue to do.
Okay, this is good. This is good.
Gary,
I was conflicted on that one too.
Gary, the lake and pond associations, if there's an issue, generally pay for the issue, like the frog bin, out of their own budgets.
Yeah, if they're in a position to do that, which is good, but that's sort of the partnership piece.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different depending on what the problem and the issue is, and what the costs are, and what the importance to the town and property values are with respect to there's so many factors come into play as to where the expectation would be of where the funding would come from, or the resources. Okay, that's good. This is a good discussion. Thank you.
One more question, if I could, Gary. Has any money been spent for water quality on any out of the funds? Any requests come in from our funds for water quality testing, bacterial testing, or any of that?
No, we haven't, but we potentially could. So
because the town pays the watershed, the Maguntacook Alliance Association pays them to do water testing. So what's done at Moody Pond is paid for by the Watershed Alliance.
Really? Moody Pond is paid for by
And so is Levenseller,
Okay,
and so is Maguntacook, and so
Yeah,
is Norton, and so is Norton.
So
okay. That's good.
And water testing on Coleman, which is done by volunteers, and the Coleman Pond Association pays for sending samples to Maine Water.
Mhm.
And we do on picture too. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay. But I think that if we identified a specific problem that was, non-routine, that had to be investigated, I think that that's something that we need to talk about within the committee and potentially make a request to the town to cover it. The funds that are available to do that aren't a huge amount the way the budget is written. We've got that 250 where there's a lot of flexibility, but if we aren't using the other 600 for the Norton Pond project, I think that could potentially be capped with a request going to the select board.
yeah.
Good. Okay.
The word you used was non-routine, because each of our pond associations have their routines, what they do and what they pay. So that I thought maybe non-routine was a good word.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. And what it shows the town is that the pond associations and the people who live around the ponds are willing to do these things that are good for the town, good for the property tax base, good for the enjoyment of not just the people who live on the ponds, but people who also use the ponds. And it's a partnership. But there are times when the lake associations aren't necessarily going to be able to move forward if it's not part of the routine that would be covered by their, dues and the way that they've traditionally done business.
So can I change the subject, Gary? When you go to the select board, do you need to say anything about looking for property on Coleman Pond for public access or not?
No.
Okay.
This is going to be
They don't ask
specifically
that.
focused on Phragmites and the progress that we're making on the
But for your information,
unencapsulated polystyrene.
for your information, properties on Coleman Pond come up quickly, are sold quickly. There's nothing available. We have 3 new people who have bought properties.
The town doesn't want to spend that kind of money either.
Right.
I'm sure it doesn't have it.
Well, that's right, because for each house that has property that's been sold, there have been, 4 or 5 bidders. So it goes up.
Right. And the town did have the opportunity to buy that property next to Breezemere Park, and
they didn't.
Opted not to do it because of the cost, I think, as much as anything, and taking it off of the tax base.
Composition of the board has changed enough that I don't think that's a priority anymore, honestly.
I think you're right, Rich. We don't need to fight that battle.
Yeah, the person who was pushing hardest left.
Yes.
But it should be a priority for the town, public access to ponds.
If it can
Yeah,
be
and I think it's important for us to continue to make that a part of our standing agenda when we go lake by lake to report out on it if we're aware of an opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially one that we think might work for the town.
Because there was that wonderful
responsible.
opportunity that came up with Penobscot Park on Penobscot Bay, which the Coastal Mountains Land Trust swapped with the town of Lincolnville for a piece of property in the duck trap. And this park, Penobscot Park, is just a wonderful resource for the town of Lincolnville.
Yeah.
Public access on Penobscot Bay. That's huge, huge.
I don't disagree with that, except that it's going to be pretty expensive to maintain that place. There's going to be some money that has to be spent.
Depends what they want to do with it. I mean,
Well,
if they want to turn it into a Disney World, well, yes. But if they want to just leave it plain,
yeah, but the structures, they have bathrooms. Who's going to clean the bathrooms? Are they going to close the bathrooms?
I think they're going to close them.
Yeah, well,
But I don't know. I don't know.
But no, but I'm just saying it could be a very big expense. So it's a beautiful spot, but a lot of the structures there are going to need, maintenance if they keep them. There's like, I have a list of things there. There's picnic shelters, volleyball court, bathrooms.
None of those are there. They're not there.
There's some
But
stuff.
if they want to build it, but there's nothing there except maybe a bathroom.
No,
That's it.
Well,
I think that there is a court area. So there's the area that's also to the right of the area.
Yeah, I've walked it, and it's
Okay.
it's basically a field.
that's not the
Well,
whole
there are
thing. though.
also
There's picnic
there are
shelters.
picnic shelters there and
Oh yes,
grilling
there is,
areas.
but that's a really
And there's
simple picnic
also
shelter.
a place that's set up for a volleyball court as well,
Yeah.
off to the side.
Well, it depends what Lincolnville's going to do with it. But what I'm saying is that it's a
Right.
wonderful opportunity for the people of Lincolnville to have access to the water. I mean, you don't have to fix it up so that it's like Disney World or it's got all these, opportunities. You could just leave it plain.
Yeah, but you can't swim there either. It's all rocks.
I know. That's wonderful.
It's nice. You can look
Okay.
at it though.
Anyway, sorry I brought it up.
Okay.
And we're going to keep talking about responsible access, right? Our agenda next
Oh,
month
that's
is
good.
about wake and speed and displacement and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do to prepare for that discussion?
What do we need, what to do, what?
For the
So,
responsible access.
Oh,
well, Susan, do you want to, so did we agree that that was going to be on our agenda for our January meeting?
Oh, that's what I read.
Okay, so let's read that again and make sure that we're going to be prepared to do that at our next meeting.
And I guess, when I thought about that, I thought, honestly, I didn't even know what the current ordinances are. How would I know that? So I need to address my ignorance, I guess.
And I was going to bring up, I don't know, bring it for the meeting or give it to you, Susan, about what we wrote for jet
Oh,
ski.
yeah. You had a big file.
A big file. I still
Yeah.
do. I haven't done anything about it, but
Yeah.
when we get it on, I can give it to you. But just the final document that we had talked about wakes and erosions and erosion of the shore and wildlife that the jet skis wake. Also, the jet ski can get right close into the shoreline when it's supposed to stay out 200 feet, no, 100 feet from the shore.
Yeah. And that's kind of my point too. We're on a point on McConaughey and people cut that point right off. So, and I don't know what happened to the nesting loons last year. So I'd like to address that. I'd be interested in reading your final document. And it
Yes,
was interesting to hear last month when I brought this up at the tail end of the meeting, that you and Rich have a serious history with this whole thing.
Yes.
So you're not new to this.
no,
Okay,
You
so
have-
how should we structure this meeting? I'm just reading the item from the minutes, and it says agenda item for January meeting, voting on Lincolnville ponds. We will discuss enforcement of existing ordinances and practices regarding speed, weight, ecological impact, displacement, nighttime operation, etc. What kind of preparation do we need to have a good discussion of those things? And do we need to have some assignments amongst us to do a little background research?
Well, we certainly
Or
know,
should we
have
just
to know
base
what
it on the experience?
we have to know what the
Ordinances.
existing ordinances are.
Right.
exactly. And David Kinney could tell us that.
Is
What?
every
Yeah.
pond different? Does every pond have a different ordinance?
What?
Does every pond have a different ordinance?
No, no, I don't think so.
It's
See,
the-
Well,
this is what
somewhat
we need to
different.
know.
it's the same for all the ponds?
I think the 100 feet from the shore is the same for all ponds.
Okay.
What about 100 feet?
What?
What about 100 feet? You mean you can't have a motorboat within or you can't
There's
have weight?
a wake zone or 100 feet, no wake zone. Then you've got the 200 feet that is the where you can do water skiing and tubing in each pond. And that's state, I would say. But then there are some ordinance like Levenseller, you said has no motors.
Right, right. What do you think of the idea of asking the inland harbor master or the lake warden, or something like Justin, to actually address the group? You know,
That's
to
what I was
talk to
thinking.
us about what
Existing
applies, what the
ordinances.
enforcement mechanisms are.
You know, that's
Yes.
there.
Is there someone who could reach out to Justin or to Paul
Is Justin
Leeper?
the right person?
Well, wouldn't David Kinney have the state and town ordinances?
I don't think, well, he might have the ordinances, but I don't think that it would be something necessarily that, you know, he would be that familiar with. You know, I know he's busy with a lot of other things, and it might be good to kind of hear it from the people who have responsibility for this.
Yeah.
Pat, you could.
Well, Susan had her hand up first.
Well, I think
As
you did.
one teacher to another,
wanted to
she had her hand up first.
Say that McGonagall Lake has a lake patrol. I mean, they actually have a boat that says Lake Patrol, and their job,
Right.
I think, is to enforce these ordinances. So it might be in their interest to explain it to us.
So-
And
So it's McGonagall Association that has it.
Right.
no, the ordinances are available and they're online and we could find them. So there's no point in asking David for them. The idea of having Justin come talk to us is for his explanation, not just of the ordinances that we can all look up and read, but how they're enforced, what's
Right.
really happening on the lakes and ponds. Because having ordinances, just like having speed limits, only really matters when it comes down to enforcement.
Right.
Who enforces it? Who do you report what to? What can you expect to have happen if the ordinances are violated?
Right, how does it actually work and what are the
Yeah.
problems?
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it makes sense to reach out to, say, Paul Leeper.
I
and,
think that's better because maybe
ask
that
him
other
what
guy,
he
Doherty.
thinks, whether it's something he would want to be involved in, or whether
Yes,
he would have, what's his name, Doherty, who,
Dale.
Dale Doherty do it, or Justin.
Or Justin. Yeah.
Or he himself might want to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I do know Justin came to the Coleman Pond meeting, and he's been, and he was very articulate. And whenever there was a problem on Coleman Pond, he would go and talk to the individual who was violating the ordinances. And he had a good way of dealing with the issues.
But he was lake warden before, but I don't think he is anymore. I think it's Dale.
I think it's Dale now. So maybe talking to Paul and see what he thinks would be the best way to get some of these questions answered for us, both the ordinances that are on the books and how it works in practice.
Yes, I think Paul would probably be good.
I'll ask him.
I'll
reach out to him.
Okay.
Unless you'd rather do it, Gary.
No, I think it'd be fine for you to go forward with that, please.
Okay.
You've got 2 assignments, but that's okay.
Yeah. Press release and Paul.
Well, I'm trying to forget about the press release now.
I think, I would think it would be good to have both Justin and Paul at the meeting, and I'd be happy to contact Justin.
I think we should deal with Paul first and ask his advice. Because I remember suggesting something that Justin do and was told Dale is the person now, not Justin. And I can't remember what it was for, but there's something there.
Okay, but my understanding is, you know, with Justin being inland harbor master, he would be enforcing things on the lakes. But you're saying Dale is?
I don't know.
Okay, check with Paul. That's fine.
So,
well, I'll reach out to Paul and ask if Justin should come too, or if you want to reach out to Justin, fine. But Paul's his boss in this case.
Check with Paul, but I think having 2 people would be helpful if Paul wants to be involved. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next meeting, fourth Tuesday. Yeah.
And what is that? Is that the 26th?
Beats me.
22nd, I think it is.
Yeah,
22nd?
22nd, I think that's what it says.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, it's the 4th Tuesday.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
I'll report back.
It looks like the 26th.
26th.
6th, I think, yeah.
Okay, well.
Okay.
Now, and it sounds like we should all do our homework and find out about these ordinances that are online. Would they be on the town website?
Or the state.
Or the state.
Or the state?
Probably.
I don't know.
I think we could do that, but I think the hope is that whoever would come to brief us would be able to tell us what the operative structure was and what the ordinances were and how they're actually enforced. I think that if we wanted to independently look into that and go to the town's website, we could.
Okay.
And there's probably materials on the state's website as well that talks about some of these things.
And I'd be happy to ask Paul what kind of research we should do in anticipation of his talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Handouts.
Anything else that people would like to cover?
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy.
Holidays.
Enjoy the equinox. It's always great when the days start getting a little longer.
Yeah.
And the Christmas star.
Every day.
Happy Great
Christmas
Conjunction.
star. Yeah, the Great Conjunction.
The Great Cloudy Conjunction.
Yeah, well, I
Well,
haven't
yeah.
seen it.
Oh, I saw
Recently.
it tonight. We went out to
did?
look for it last night. It was too cloudy, but it just appeared above that bank of black clouds. And
I went out earlier and couldn't find it, but
it was right
night
over the peak
before
of
last
Moody
I
Mountain.
found it.
Oh.
Oh,
Well, they've been getting
But it was-
closer and closer for months. I mean, I saw them this summer a lot, and they were just so bright.
So it was interesting in looking at them today, looking at them with your naked eye, it really looked like a single star, at least to my
Yeah.
eyes. But when I used my binoculars, they were separated. And when I used my spotting scope, even more separated, and you could really see three
Two
moons of
stars.
Jupiter,
The
and you could
moons.
see the rings around Saturn with space between the rings and the planet
Mhm.
itself. It was really very impressive.
Wow.
Nice.
Neat to see. Okay, I'm glad to see that everybody is staying healthy. I hope Steve is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And,
hope so too.
I'll probably try to give him a call if I can, just to make sure things are okay and to let him
Good.
know that we're going to be getting in touch with Paul Leeper. He'll probably appreciate knowing that.
Yes,
And if I don't talk to him, I'll send a note to him.
okay.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks,
Okay.
Gary.
good. Thank
See
you,
you
Gary.
next year.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Merry
I enjoy
Christmas.
this time with you. My
Yeah.
only social interactions these days. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Leave meeting.